Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are here for the Victory Road World Cup of Pokémon VGC, of course, sponsored by Elgato, Gigi Tour, and Metafi. My name is Ben Kiraku, joined here by Evan Weng. And Evan, it is great to finally be behind the mic with you for the first week of the group stages of this event. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm very excited about this because I kind of grew up as a player with the World Cup last year when I was in Team Singapore, and I got to watch you guys, yourself and Maeve, and the others cast. And this will be my first time casting with you guys, so this is a good adventure for me.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. And we've got some great matches still to come today. We're in match 2 out of the 4 that we have this afternoon, this evening, this morning, depending on where you are in the world. And it will be, of course, Poland versus Uruguay this week. Or this match even, should I say. But before we go on to the next match, we'll have a little bit of a recap on the previous match. South Korea versus the Netherlands, and the Netherlands taking a pretty commanding victory 2-0 versus South Korea and bringing the overall match score to 3-2.
I'm actually quite a close friend with Bas, and that was quite a nice win. The matches, the Pokemon, like the moves just went back and forth, but then it seemed like Bas had a good game plan, and actually this brings him up to three wins for this World Cup season. And counting the previous World Cup season, I believe Bas is undefeated in the World Cup, so he's definitely looking to further this record and go as far as he can to bring his team Netherlands to great heights.
Yeah, the X and O Club is a pretty exclusive one, and usually it doesn't go across between 2021 and 2022, 2 consecutive years. But we'll see. We'll keep an eye on Bars definitely and see how he carries on keeping up with his record and see if he can keep that undefeated streak. Speaking of the next players, we have, as we said, Poland versus Uruguay. I'm quite interested to see what Uruguay have got to offer in this World Cup as well.
Yeah, so Poland is a group that is no stranger to the qualifier stage. They did qualify last year and unfortunately got eliminated in the group stage. So this season definitely going as far as they can. And Uruguay this is their first time in the group stage after a tough loss last year against Spain and Italy. So this is a breakthrough performance, and Uruguay is definitely no team to scoff at. So looking at the teams in front of us, it seems like both countries are opting to bring really stable cores and stable tried and tested teams against each other.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that you've got to be really cognizant of when you're playing in these sort of team tournaments is that, you know, you can counter team your opponent if there's enough information, if there's enough, pattern in the way that they've played. You can go for counter teams, but the other way to approach this is kind of like almost a tournament setup where you're taking the teams that are really tried and tested, as you mentioned, Evan, and just able to play into lots of different matchups, because a lot of players change up their teams every week and use different things, and sometimes it's better just to have a team that's pretty good against everything rather than excellent against something, and then you find out that it loses against something else. So both of these teams look like they're trying to play good Pokemon and get as many points as they can and take that sort of consistent teams, consistent moves, consistent plays and translate that into a win, hopefully, for either side.
That's a really good point. Like from my research for these two players that we're going to feature, Bartosz and Marco, Bartosz actually used James Evans' team for 3 weeks in a row during the qualifier stage. And Marco has been using a Zacian Kyogre team consistently. So when you guys saw in the break earlier, I think these two players are still leaning towards the more standard team, going towards comfort rather than trying to surprise your opponents. I think that's a good approach towards this World Cup Team League format.
Definitely, and matches are not won by the players, they're won by the team, of course, but the players are still important. We've got the players on the screen at the moment, Bartosz on the left and Marco on the right. Bartosz with lots of top 8s from consecutive years, a lot in 2019, Tours, Frankfurt and Cannes. regional level events and a Bremen Regional Championship top 8 in the 2018 season. So a player that I've had the good fortune of playing against a few times and being good friends with over the years, and definitely a very solid, consistent player. Knows the sort of ins and outs of the teams that they play, and really doesn't really leave anything left to chance, so to speak. Marco, though, a 2021 Worlds competitor from Uruguay, so not sure whether or not they have as many events as we do in Europe here, but still a good opportunity for them to, they've got into the World Championships, they've played in day one. That means that they are, definitely a player to watch out for here.
So Bartosz, like you said earlier, a player that knows his team in and out. I think he also knows his teammates because he is a returning player for Poland and a really good leader at that for Team Poland from last year and this year. Uruguay, for Marco, he played last year in the 2021 World Cup, but I think he didn't play any matches. And in 2022, his record is also currently 1-0 using Zashen Kyogre team. The teams that we see on the screen are incorrect because you guys saw from the break earlier. So Bartosz actually is running Taran Birdies NAIC top 8 team, Zashen Kyogre, Charizard, Whimsicott for the Tailwind, and then there's Amoonguss and Thundurus. And from Marco, he's actually bringing what we commonly call French Rain, used by Thomas Gravouille and the other French players. Thomas managed to win Lille regionals with that same team. So this is a Zashen Kyogre and Thundurus mirror that we don't see very often, since Zashen Kyogre teams tend to run maybe Zapdos or Rillaboom, but we're not seeing all these Pokemon today.
No, and French Rain is definitely something that's took a lot of prevalence around the Lille regional championships that Thomas managed to win. And I'm pretty sure that all of the French players that I spoke to in that tournament were running the same sort of composition, just trying to take advantage of the Swordfish mirror with the Shedinja and the advantage that brings when the restricted Pokemon aren't able to hit it at all. So that's going to be really important in the matchup as we go into this game one.
Yeah, right away we see both Thundurus come out. I have a feeling that both Thundurus might have different abilities, since we commonly known the French Rain archetype to have the Prankster ability on the Thundurus, but we can't say, know for sure until the turns play out. Notably, the Zashen activated the Intrepid Sword earlier than the Kyogre, so we don't have any Scarf Kyogre shenanigans here. Then it comes to see maybe there could be a speed tie coming up from both Thundurus. I think this turn seems to be quite important for both players.
Yeah, and if it is that Prankster ability on Thundurus on Marco's side of the field, there'll be the option for a bit of speed control, maybe some eerie impulses going on as we see coming out right here. Called it before it came out, I'll take that for turn one. So Kyogre's going to get its special attack lowered, and a big Behemoth Blade coming out from Zacian.
Yeah, I think the Behemoth Blade is going into... I actually wanted to say it's going into the Thundurus, but actually it went into the Kyogre, possibly predicting a Protect coming out from one side, as Bartosz Thundurus goes for the Wild Charge. Interesting to see that both players did not go for any Dynamax. From Bartosz's side, his Thundurus is the Defiant variant, as we can see from the Life Orb that he's holding, some sort of a hint. As Origin Pulse comes down, I'm not sure if the critical hit matters. It's very powerful in the rain. And the critical hit mattered because of the Eerie Pulse drop onto the Kyogre. Yeah. So unfortunate turn from Marco, and a good turn from Bartosz to be able to get a KO on a very important Pokemon like Zashen.
It is, but this Kartana coming in may actually be what Marco needs in this position. It's always unfortunate to lose your Zacian on turn one, and kind of Zacian sort of did what you would be asking of it in doing a bit of damage to the Kyogre, putting a bit of pressure on and forcing Bartosz to play around it somewhat. But now that the Kartana comes in, and especially if the Thundurus on Marco's side of the field is running that Prankster set and isn't so offensive, it's likely going to be the Kartana that's going to be going for that Dynamax. And Kartana Dynamax matches up quite well against the Thunderous Dynamax, I think, overall, just because it's able to kind of resist everything that the Thunderous has to offer more commonly, and able to get its max airstreams up and put a lot of damage on the field, especially if it gets those beast boosts.
Yeah, so this is an interesting switch out from Bartosz to keep the Kyogre safe and bring the Whimsicott in, potentially expecting something like a max overgrowth to come out from the Katana. The faster Pokemon of Thunderous from Bartosz's side, which makes sense, Dynamax's first, and I'm curious to see if the Katana follows suit. Yeah, and it does. This could be a speed tie between the Thunderous, but if the opposing Thunderous has shown to be a Prankster set, then I expect this to be the Katana going big. And if Marco is able to call it right, he might go for something like a max airstream into the Whimsicott slot to fight for speed control.
Yeah, I think that would be a really sensible way to approach this matchup. We see the Thunder Wave coming into the Whimsicott too. That's going to be pretty impactful, I think. Whimsicott both may not be able to move next turn, but also will be slower than the Thunderous on Marco's side of the field, and may be susceptible to a little bit of a taunt going on from Marco's side of the field, depending on which version of French Rain this is. Max Airstream going into the Kartana, going to be doing a fair amount of damage, but really more chip than anything else. And Max Overgrowth going into that Whimsicott. Bartosz predicting the Max Overgrowth correctly, and being able to sort of tank those hits. A little bit of grassy terrain recovery as well, not going to go amiss. And this Kartana's looking pretty healthy right now.
That was really impressive damage from the Bartosz Thunderous, the Max Airstream, followed by the Max Overgrowth from the Katana into the Whimsicott. So both players seem to be at a standstill here, but Bartosz, with that Max Airstream, strategically is always able to ensure that his Dynamax Pokemon, the Thunderous, move first. And I think having the paralysis on the Whimsicott is a good catch by Bartosz, since the Whimsicott is most probably Prankster and should be able to get a move off. If it gets paralyzed, it should be still fine as it gets paralyzed here. And Bartosz is still able to always get speed control over his opponent. And from Marco's end, that Thunderous wouldn't be able to do anything into Bartosz Thunderous. So it feels like Poland does have a lot of control in these first few turns of this game.
I do like the targeting from Thunderous into Thunderous, Bartosz removing the opportunity for speed control later in the game, trying to get their own speed control, but Bartosz, unfortunately, having that full paralysis isn't actually able to do so. Max Steel Spike knocking out the Whimsicott, no surprises there, and both a defense and an attack boost coming from that, which will be pretty impactful to the game, I think, because that Kartana is now going to not really take any damage from Bartosz's Thunderous. It's going to take so much less now that it's got that defense boost up. And even with the Charizard coming in here, currently the Kartana outspeeds it, and so there's a little bit of a speed war going on still with both Pokemon in their max, but it's going to be down to how these players play this turn, because with the Kyogre now on the field, the Thunderous both wants to go for a max Airstream to help the Charizard knock out the Kartana, but it also wants to go for a max Lightning into the Kyogre. So
yeah, what a good situation to talk about, right? Like the dynamics of which max move to choose and whether to go for that raw damage into the Kyogre, that's pretty obvious, or go for the max Airstream into the Katana to allow the Charizard to outspeed it. Perhaps in the rain, even a fire move should be able to take that Katana out. And we see like a little sneak peek that the move is Blast Burn, so it does make sense for Bartosz to make a little choice here. Charizard is actually faster than the Katana, so Thunderous moves first, is able to catch the Kyogre, not protecting. With that Life Out Max Lightning is more than enough. Katana is actually able to move before the Charizard, so that's quite surprising. And does go for a good Max Steel Spike. That's actually +1 into the Thunderous. That's really very powerful, as the Charizard fires back with the Blast Burn, is easily able to get the KO, and Bartosz is now up 3 Pokemon to I think Marco's one last one.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what the last Pokemon is.
Oh,
Because,
no.
wait, no.
Yeah,
No, all of the
all the
Pokemon
Pokemon went down because Zacian went down so early. So that's something I
Yes.
totally forgot. I thought that there was still a chance with that Katana Max and the Kyogres to still be able to try and squeeze out a win for Uruguay's side. But that was a commanding performance from Bartosz from Poland.
Yeah, and I think, if you go for the Protect on the Kyogre that turn, maybe you get an Airstream up with the Katana before it gets knocked out by that Charizard. Then you've got the Thunderous, which will go back into its normal form from Dynamax, and maybe you're going to be in a position where you outspeed it, but it's probably unlikely because you've already got that speed boost on the Thunderous in the first place. So I think a really safe way for Bartosz to play that turn, realizing that maybe the Max Airstream isn't actually necessary whatsoever, and you can just go for the attack that knocks out the Kyogre. The Kyogre protects, hey, fine, knock it out next turn. If it doesn't protect, then you take the knockout this turn, and it leaves the Charizard pretty free to go for the Katana. Would have been interested, though, to see what would have happened if Marco had gone for that Max Airstream into Charizard and it was enough to pick up the KO from that on that Charizard, though, because without the Charizard, it would have been a pretty difficult task to be knocking out that Katana.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think both sides were still able to play well. I think Marco actually played the first turn well with the Eerie Impulse. Unfortunately, he got crit and Zacian went down too easily. And with that Thunderous being prankster and always being able to control the opponent with Eerie Impulse and Thunder Wave. Yeah, I think Marco had a good game plan. And from both ends, both players have good information going into game 2. So we're going to start off with the same lead coming out from Marco, and Bartosz actually switches it up into what we commonly know as the Sunny Day lead, because in this team composition, the Whimsicott should have Sunny Day to allow the Charizard to operate out of rain. So what an interesting switch up from Bartosz, being one game up, probably saying, oh, I can do something interesting in this second game to take a lot of control. And also interesting to see the Charizard not being afraid of the prankster moves coming out from Thunderous on Marco's end.
No, not at all. I think, when you're in Sun with a Charizard, you're in a spot where you're going to be doing lots of damage, and if you're doing half of lots of damage, you're still probably doing lots of damage. And I think the really important thing here is that G-Max Wildfire is not about just the turn that you launch the move out and the damage that you do that turn. It's also really about all of that chip that comes from the G-Max Wildfire secondary effect. And we see, as you mentioned there, Evan, the Sunny Day coming out from the Whimsicott, it is going to be taking away the sun that Kyogre took away by coming onto the field and getting its drizzle ability in play. Charizard special attack dropping from the Eerie Impulse, same as the first game, just a Charizard rather than a Kyogre in this game, but that Wildfire just does so much damage to that Thunderous, and Thunderous is going to hang on in part because of that Citrus Berry at the end of this turn. But yeah, and now everything for the next 4 turns is going to be taking quite a bit of chip damage here, and I think probably going to be advantage Bartosz here.
Yeah, I think it's still a pretty even board state, so because Marco is still able to preserve the Dynamax and sort of keep the Zacian safe, with Kyogre on the field and with the Thunderous always being able to go for more Eerie Impulses onto the Charizard, he might be able to stall Bartosz's Charizard pretty well. So I'm curious to see what happens as Marco actually goes immediately for a Dynamax Kyogre, not wanting to waste any more time and try to dish out as much damage as possible. Unfortunately, Bartosz is still easily able to go for something like a Tailwind, as we do see here from the Whimsicott. And I'm curious to see what the Charizard goes for next. The Eerie Impulse does come out to lower the Charizard down to -4, but I think a Charizard in Sun, this time without a Life Orb, is still powerful enough. But no, the Max Airstream is not able to take out the Thunderous thanks to the Citrus Berry that Thunderous held on to just now.
But I think that's probably enough damage to take it into range of the Wildfire chip here. Max Geyser going into the Charizard, doing pretty respectable damage here. Going to be importantly setting up the Rain again for itself. So there's that age-old question, I suppose, in this sort of board states as to whether the Whimsicott goes for another Sunny Day or not. Quite a good defensive play as it is on an offensive play, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that coming out from Bartosz here, as Thunderous is indeed knocked out from the Wildfire chip, and Zacian's going to be coming in place of that Thunderous.
I think both players are doing really well in these first 2 turns to gain control. From Marco's end, gaining control in the form of reducing damage, and from Bartosz end in the form of getting weather and getting the speed at the same time with the Tailwind. So if Marco were to knock the Whimsicott out, there could be an easy switch in Tailwind. So this Whimsicott from Bartosz end is proving to be very good in this mirror, this Zacian Kyogre mirror. And here we see again the Sunny Day being set up just to allow the Charizard. This is -4 in the sun. Oh, it actually doesn't take out the Zacian. And just so much control coming out from this Whimsicott Charizard lead, and you can easily keep your Zacian and Kyogre in the back for Bartosz, and not even reveal your restricteds at all. So this Charizard is proving to be a good adaptation for Game 2, and it's so powerful here. The Beam of Blade from the Zacian reveals the Focus Sash on the Whimsicott, which is expected as the Kyogre does the finishing blow, but this Charizard just did too much to Marco's side. Charizard's just one of those Pokemon, isn't it? It's just too strong, really. Whoever gave it solar power and Gmax Wildfire is they're an evil genius, I think, at developing for competitive Pokemon. But as the Charizard going down, it's done its work here, really. It doesn't need to do anything else. We've still got speed control on Bartosz's side of the field, and no speed control to speak of coming in from Marco. I think the interesting thing here will be whether Marco has that Shedinja in the back or not. We're going to see it if it is there this turn, and maybe a turn too early, because that Wildfire Flames are still in play here. But you think of the scenario where there isn't Wildfire in play and that Shedinja's in the back. Actually, Marco could be in a really, really good spot here. Yeah, so we see the last Pokemon being sent out by Marco. He actually brought the same 4. If I were Marco, I would feel really scared to bring a Shedinja if Bartosz keeps bringing the Charizard in Game 1 and in Game 2. So unfortunately, this seems to be a really tough matchup for the Shedinja variant of this Swordfish, this Zacian Kyogre team. As we do see Bartosz send in the Zacian, I think with 1 or 2 more turns of Tailwind, should easily be able to go for something like a Sacred Sword into the Katana or a Beam of Blade into the Kyogre to just put on more and more damage. And I think Whimsicott should be able to just go down here. What I wanted to talk about earlier is that the Charizard is so brave to sit on the field with the Kyogre with the protection of the Sunny Day. As we do see another Sunny Day come out, with this Whimsicott always being able to reduce the amount of damage coming out from the Katana on the the Kyogre on the opposing side. Bartosz is just playing really well to fight against this mirror. As we do see the Beam of Blade, this should do a lot of damage in the Kyogre. It's not able to take it out, so Kyogre has another turn to go for a move. Katana goes for the Smart Strike, interestingly into the Zacian, probably to do some damage there. And I expect the Kyogre to go for a Hailstorm, but instead Kyogre just wants to maintain that weather control and always kept going for Max Geyser. This is the 3rd time now, and unfortunately doesn't take down the Zacian, but thankfully sets the Rain up. Hopefully this can help the Kyogre survive future turns. It's really running so low in HP due to that Wildfire.
Yeah, I think that Sunny Day has been so crucial in this matchup, allowing Bartosz to sit in front of that Kyogre, because you think that Kyogre was probably going to be taking knockouts left, right, and centre against Bartosz's team without the Sun in play. We see there a little sneak peek of the options that that Bartosz has available that quick attack that Taran's quite well known for in this format. So even if Marco was able to get some speed control up here, there'd be quite a lot of options. But more importantly, there's no Sacred Sword here coming out from the Zacian. Only Behemoth Blade are going to be there to try to knock out this Kartana. And it's going to do pretty good damage. We know that there is also the Thunderous in the back as well, so it's going to be pretty tough for Marco to be able to get through a Pokemon that outspeeds both of Pokemon on his side of the field, as Kartana does knock out that Zacian, getting that Beast Boost, and Tailwind peters out from Bartosz's side, but now we have both Whimsicott and Thunderous on the field for Bartosz. Both Pokemon faster than both of Marco's Pokemon on his side of the field, and probably going to be pretty comfortable for Bartosz to pick up a win here.
Yeah, Bartosz revealing quite a lot of text from this team, but this team is no stranger. I think Taran actually shared his pace on Twitter, so people will be able to get some information. This Whimsicott has Energy Ball, and interestingly, this the Thunderous is going to show foul play here, but I think it's nicer to get the win, since Kartana might be a very pesky Pokemon, a difficult Pokemon to take out, so Bartosz is not pulling the stops here and goes for these plays. And a lot of control really coming out from Bartosz in the form of weather and speed control. Whimsicott actually went for a Sunny Day, I believe, 3 times. That's very cool to see, and it seems so tough for Marco's side to remove the Whimsicott from play. I feel like maybe to always expect a Sunny Day, your Kyogre could go for something like a Max Hailstorm instead, to maybe get rid of Whimsicott's Focus Sash and get it out of the field, right, to be able to try and gain more control towards the late game. But it felt like Bartosz had a really good game plan in both games 1 and 2 in the form of speed control. And in game 2, it was quite nice to see like that Whimsicott and Charizard dynamic, even in a Series 12 meta.
Yeah, and it's one of those age-old problems, right? If you're against a Whimsicott and it's doing speed control, it's getting the Sunny Days up, as we saw in this particular match, you're kind of stuck between that dilemma of wanting to knock it out so it's not doing that, but especially after it set Tailwind, which it did turn 1, then if you knock it out, then you've got 2 Pokemon that are sitting in front of you doing lots of damage, and they're going to be faster than you. So it's a difficult position to be in, and one that you have to really sort of play around. I would have liked to see that Max Hailstorm that you mentioned knock out the Sash, maybe disincentivize the Sunny Day a little bit more, because you have to press Sunny Day when you're in rain to stop all of that damage. But maybe there's a conversation if you're in hail. It's not the Kyogre's not quite as threatening to you when it's in hail rather than it's in rain. But either way, Bartosz played absolutely phenomenally well and took the set 2-0. So 2 2-0s in a row so far. Some really, really strong performances here.
Yeah, this has been a really explosive stream. So the next match that we're going to feature would be Johan from Norway versus Sohaib from the United States. This will be United States debut, like you guys said earlier. So this will definitely be an exciting match to stay tuned for. So this has been the Victory Road World Cup of Pokemon VGC, sponsored by Elgato, GG, and Metafi. So don't go away.